What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of On the Floor with Liv and Cor. I'm Cor, that's Liv, and this is episode 41. I don't know if my hands are showing the right number right now, what way it should go, of the On the Floor with Liv and Cor podcast. This is so fun. I can't believe 41. It's the postseason. It's happening. And Liv, you have a different background behind you. Where the heck in the nation are you?
I know. Let's play like where's Liv? Like where's Waldo? I am in New York City. I'm visiting some family. I'm staying at my dad's apartment, and my little brother is doing an art opening in the Lower East Side. Actually, the day we record this is Wednesday the 13th. So today his show opens. So my boyfriend and I came to surprise him, which is so exciting.
Oh my gosh, does Evan know you're there yet?
No idea. Location services turned off. Like he has no clue.
Oh my gosh, that's so exciting. So
I know.
exciting. Liv sent me a beautiful picture from her walk through Central Park this morning, which I was incredibly jealous about. And for those of you that don't know, both Olivia and I have spent time living in New York City at some point in our post-grad careers.
It's
So
true.
the city holds a very near and dear place in our heart.
And one of the all-time best weekends of our lives. Actually, two, yeah, the all-time best weekend of our life that continued into later in the week. That's for another day.
That's for another day. That's for another day. Well, okay, Olivia, this is like a fun weekly episode, and like we did and started last week, you never know where these podcast episodes are going to go, but we do have some NCAA news that we want to update everyone on. We want to chat a little bit about what we saw from DP Nationals this past weekend in Oklahoma City, which was amazing gymnastics that was going down and such excitement for the future of NCAA gymnastics. And just some pop culture thrown in there, here and there. So before we get started, Liv, what are your Liv's lips of the week?
Well, I put this out on social, I think it was last week, and during the Sephora sale, I went a little rogue on the lip products, but I haven't opened all of them because I'm trying to practice, self-restraint. It's very hard. But alas, everyone voted on which one I should open next. And it's the Edam one, which Corey, a good friend of yours and now becoming a lippy gal of mine, Miss Simone Rose, swiped up on my story and was like, you have to try that one. She sent me hers. She bedazzled hers. Anyway, this is the color Butter Mochi. Very hydrating. You know what this is, Corey.
Oh, the metal applicator.
It's so good. I walked into work yesterday and I was like, guys, I have the new It Girl Lippy. And everyone was like, what do you mean? So, of course, now my whole office bought them.
Okay, so this is how much I've become invested in Liv's lips of the week, is now I know these lip gloss names. And when Olivia sent me a picture of this, I was like, wait a second, is that like the Maid lip gloss playing scramble letters and just creating a new brand and also having a metal lip applicator? And she was like, I love you. Who have I transformed you into? And I'm like, I listen, I hear.
You do. Your lip gloss IQ is pretty impressive these days.
Despite being a Blistex from Hudson News guy, it doesn't matter.
You
But
know, we always go back to the basics, and there's nothing wrong with that.
there's nothing wrong with that. Okay. DP Nationals were this past weekend. It happened in Oklahoma City, which it's happened in Oklahoma City in the recent years. No notes about that, really, like not from a positive or a negative standpoint, but it's great. I think it looked like all the athletes had a great time. Got to see lots of TikToks on my algorithm of youth athletes capturing their gear hauls and what the opening ceremonies were like. One note I will make is it did look like the Oklahoma gymnastics show a bit. You had Yule Moldauer DJing and answering questions from the stage in the opening ceremonies. You had Audrey Davis and Jordan Bowers in their OU gear up on the stage answering questions from the women's side of the sport. And then I think what was also pretty cool was I noticed right after DP Nationals, Oklahoma Gymnastics hosted their first high performance camp of the season, of the summer, and it looked like a bunch of athletes stayed in Oklahoma City and attended the camp, which is incredible. Like it's a great idea. It's
That's so smart.
so smart. It's super smart. So ultimately, I think it is of note we saw SEC gymnastics championships happen in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We saw now DP nationals happened in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Um, it's becoming quite the hub of gymnastics these days. But
I know.
what did you see? I know you had some former IK gymnastics teammates who circled up her career in Cami Tassoni,
Yes.
who's going to UCLA next year. But what did you see this weekend from DP Nationals?
You know, it's so interesting. I'm like not as well versed in the DP space, just given my work and what I do. But I did want to mention first, before we talk about the athletes, some of the freshly new assistant coaches in their new gear. We
Yes.
saw a lot of new coaches that have come up in the last couple of weeks. And like a Jordan Bowers, when you said that, it popped into my head. She was on stage as an OU alumni. And then in photos with Devin and Nicole in her Cornhusker gear because she has now been named the assistant coach for Nebraska, which is her hometown. And so it's so interesting seeing that angle of it. I saw Faith Torres was there as well, and she was flashing all of her rings. I thought that was awesome. I know she had a lot of former teammates there. But DP Nationals for me, I always loved it because you felt like you were part of a team. And it seems now that a lot of these athletes, regardless of if they're from gyms with big teams are becoming much more interconnected with people they either are in recruiting classes with, went on visits with, and never ended up going to the same school. So it almost feels like a big reunion in its own way, which is how we feel about championships on the conference level and on the national level. So I thought that was amazing. I saw that there were a couple of perfect tens, which
Yes.
was fascinating to me because some I did not necessarily agree with. There was one that I thought was pretty excellent, and I was like, wow, that was gorgeous. But it does seem to me that the judging conversation is trickling down into the DP level as well, which is a fascinating feat given a 9.2 on beam for a hit beam routine was like score, you know? So it's interesting to see that. But I saw, forgive me for not knowing her name, but she is a Stanford commit. She won the all around. She
Mhm.
competed a double front half out opening pass. I was left agape.
Yeah. That's Rhea. I think her name is Rhea Linton, I believe is her name. She's incredible. She's incredible.
Oh
With
my gosh, it was gorgeous. And I think she did a full on vault too that was massive.
I didn't see
Someone
her.
did a Yurchenko full that was absolutely gorgeous. I think it was one of the tens.
No, she did a Yurchenko full.
Okay,
She
then maybe it
she
was.
she does a Yurchenko full. She's coming into the table with power that I thought was going to turn into a 1.5, and then all of a sudden it was a full, and it was gorgeous and amazing. But yeah, yeah. Wait, so okay, one reminder though, because I've heard this discourse on the tens from DP, is that most of the routines that you're seeing that went 10 actually start from a 10.1.
That's
So there
right.
so there is that 1/10 of wiggle room. Now, I'm not saying that there wasn't more than a tenth of
Right.
deduction that was seen, so I'm not trying to like belittle your point at all.
Right.
But I will say that there are definitely moments when I'm like, oh, that stuck your Chinko 1.5 did stick and it went 10.0.
Right.
But like what I'm seeing in the air feels a little bit cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. But yeah, no, I think that like tens are exciting and I think it is cool to see them happening. I think Ray Linton was one of those tens. Finley Scott, who's a committed to University of Arkansas, does a
Was that the front pike half?
yes, yeah.
That was
And
nice.
and she's gone 10 multiple times this season. So it's like a way to finish out her DP career was with a 10 is pretty cool.
That's awesome.
So
I
Olivia,
do
I want
think
to
it is interesting, though, one final thought on that, because I do think if anyone wants us to talk about that, the DP scoring angle, I do think that that's an interesting topic for us.
yeah.
But I struggle with if a vault is perfect in the air and it starts with a 10-1 and you land and take a teeny step, can it go 10? Because I've only seen stuck vaults go 10 with form errors.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting conversation to talk about landing deduction versus form error and which garners, oh, you can't get a 10 having done a step versus you can get a 10 with a stick I
Hmm.
don't know. Regardless, that's a whole different topic that we could get into at some point. But these vaults and what we were just talking about kind of sparked that for me and made
Yeah.
me think in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I
Anyway,
wanted to ask you about your experience at DP Nationals in your club career because
yeah,
I mean, you spoke about it earlier, this concept of like the camaraderie we see between gymnasts in their st because they see them at state or regionals or whatever the case may be, and then all the way through nationals, but also the recruiting trips and the other things that kind of bond these athletes. But one
yeah.
thing that I think is really special about DP Nationals is you're competing on behalf of your region, right? So you are a
Hmm.
Region 5 gymnast, and I know that Region 5 gymnasts are like loyal to Region 5, let me tell you. They are like, you're not from Region 5? Too bad. But I think ultimately I want to ask you like that was kind of that regional feeling and that team vibe feeling is kind of your first taste of college gymnastics a bit. Did you
Yeah.
sense that in your level 10 career, like prior to going to college? Like what was that feeling like for you in your back in your day?
In my day. That's a great question because I came from a gym, that same gym as Helen Hu, and Gabby Cook was a gymnast at Illinois State. There's one of the athletes who came in after I graduated, Olivia. I don't remember her last name, it was terrible, but she ended up at University of Illinois. So there were a bunch of gymnasts that came from there, but very small. And I was the first gymnast from IK to go to college. We had like it was just small, and so it was very rare based on level or age group that I competed with my teammates
Hmm.
at at IK. And so I didn't really understand what it meant to have like a full team environment. My first DP nationals back when it was called, junior nationals or whatever,
Yeah.
was in JOs, was in Long Beach, California. I actually was on, I was, well, backtrack. I was an alternate and then one of the athletes unfortunately got hurt. And so I ended up getting to go and compete.
Hmm.
And I was on the team with Lexi Funk, my former Michigan teammate, current associate head coach at Pitt. And we competed together there. But I remember being so shell shocked and just like in awe. What is this? Why are we wearing face tattoos? Why is our hair in this tight bun? I don't wear a bun, I wear a ponytail. Like it was just so interesting how things worked like that. But being on a team was so fun. And then I got hurt and I didn't compete for 2 years. I ended up only competing beam and floor my sophomore year because I was dealing with recovering from a back issue. And then my junior and senior year, I ended up qualifying to DP Nationals as well. And that was where at that time I was committed to Michigan. I had friends who were also committed to Michigan, but also friends that I went to, camps with and did all these things. Like Lacey Dagan was one of those people who I got to be close with. Sydney Sneed was one of those people. So a lot of athletes that, became friends of mine that I never competed with who were from different regions. So it was really fun. And I think there was a level of respect that was there. But now that I'm watching it, like, remember, Corey, when we were at NCAA's and we were like, I can't believe they're doing TikToks before warm up. Like, it is a whole new world with like the social media angle and how these athletes can be like, oh, just jump in my TikTok. And it's like a way of extending an arm and a hug instead of being like, hi, I'm so and so. It's nice to meet you. It's like, come be in my TikTok. And I'm like, I can't even like fathom that in any form. But it was very fun. I will say, like, I think DP Nationals is such an incredible prerequisite for what you're going to experience in college because it's not going to be the same that you had in club. There's different decisions that are going to be made for you. There's different leotards that you're going to wear, and there's different ways your hair is going to be, and it's louder, and there's more interaction with people. And so I think it's a really nice bridge between what you're going to get when you step on a college campus and become less shell-shocked.
Right. Not to mention the 2 rows of every college coach in the entire country just
Oh my
staring
God.
at you the whole time you're competing. Right. All of the college coaches are sitting at these like 2 rows of tables and chairs with like their team flag. We're sitting in front of the table. And so as an athlete, you're looking over and you're like, oh my gosh, there's my dream school coaches and they're watching me, right?
Yeah.
Like to Olivia's point, this is one of those first moments where, for many of them, obviously there's the Nastia Cup right now. So some of them have experienced like the TV side or the interviews or the other bigger stage pieces. But for many of them, this is the first time they've ever had eyeballs like that on it. Not to mention just the pressure of being on the at the national championship. So
Yeah.
I think it's super cool. I will say one thing that was incredibly confusing, and now I'm speaking to all of the dads that listen to us. Um, One thing that was really confusing was all of a sudden I was at like a dinner with some like some gymnasts before I had any experience in the club gymnastics space. And these two gymnasts looked at each other and they're like, "Oh yeah, I was the national champion on vault in 2023." And then the other gymnast was like, "Oh, I also was the national champion on vault in 2023." And I was like, "Did you tie? Or how does that work?" And they're like, "Oh no, we were different age groups." And I was like, so how many national champions are there? Like, is there
Yeah.
five for the individuals and then is there a team champion? Because that's how college works. And it's confusing. So to all the dads out there are age groups and there are five individual national champions barring, a tie. But like there are five individual national champions for vault, bars, beam, floor, and all around per age group and division. So you have the junior division and the senior division. So in one DP Nationals, I believe that this year they went up to A, B, C, D,
F?
E, F, I believe they went up to.
Yeah.
So they have six times junior and senior, so that's two, so that's 12 times five. There are 60 national champions. So in 2026. So if you ever find yourself in a moment where two people all both won the same national championship on the same event in the same year, they were probably in a different age group. So
That's hilarious.
yeah, shout out to those of us that had no idea how that possibly could have happened. But well, it's cool. I mean, DP Nationals was really cool and fun to watch. And I worked for Pacific Rain, and there were seven athletes that competed at DP Nationals, and
It's
they
great.
crushed it and did a great job. And it's just fun to watch through their lens, like what their experience was like, and they had a great time. So. All right, let's move on to some NCAA latest hot topic headlines in the news. What's been going on? Because we mentioned the Jordan Bowers announcement to Nebraska in our last episode, in episode 40, but there have been some other ones that we have not talked about just yet that we wanted to run down the list. And as Olivia mentioned, we're recording this on Wednesday, May 13th. So I'm sure if you're listening to this a day later, there will be things that we have not talked about because that has
Right.
been the last 4 weeks of news and headlines in NCAA gymnastics. Okay, Olivia, up first, let's start with the Oklahoma news because as of this week, Ashley Kerr, who was the fourth coach on the Oklahoma staff, has resigned from her position and they have hired that position poaching back OU alumni. She coached at Utah State I think the past one season.
Hmm.
And she's an all-around champion, an NCAA all-around champion. Olivia Troutman is now on the coaching staff at Oklahoma. Thoughts, feelings, all of the reactions.
Ashley was always such a steady Eddie coach for them. And I feel like every time I would watch that staff coach, they complemented each other very, very well. I do think it's really funny that a lot of people are finding out like who her husband is now because like,
Totally.
her husband is the head coach of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Like, so cool.
Right.
And so she was never going to move at the time now with what her husband's position was. But I think she was always a little bit their secret weapon
Mhm.
because she wasn't really at the forefront. The athletes have their relationship with KJ after beam that's very visible, with Lou on vault, but with Tom on bars. And I just think that she was always integral and important, but laid a little bit lower. And it's sad to see that she's gone because that staff was really the core staff for such a long time. But Olivia Troutman coming in, I mean, legend at Oklahoma. I love that she went elsewhere to get more experience as a coach. I think that's really important to go to a different program and see how they do things. And yes, of course, go back to your alma mater. But I think that's a really important step in the advancement of your college coaching career. And to have her do that, be successful, and then come back, it's like a perfect, like, tie the bow of a Cinderella, not Cinderella, but it's just like a really good story that
Totally.
she ended up back at her alma mater.
Yeah. The other thing that I feel like people forget about Ashley Kerr is that she was a Gator. She
Yeah,
competed as a Gator from 2007 to 2000. What did I just read? 2007 to 2010.
right,
Um, and she was a great athlete there. She even did like a little bit of like, she did a volunteer student manager role there. And then she also got her master's there. Um,
right.
yeah, master's in sports management and a master of arts in telecommunications. And now, yes, she's married to the head coach of the Oklahoma City Thunder for the NBA. If anyone doesn't know, that is a men's basketball professional team in Oklahoma City. Um, and yeah, so she has two kids and it's awesome and it's like it's it's awesome and we're so happy for her. I'm sure that she won't be a stranger to Oklahoma gymnastics being right down the road, of course, but I think I'm really excited for her, and I'm really excited for Olivia. I think
Me
I
too.
think it is the right path for her. Okay, we're moving on. The next one on my list was a very big transfer portal announcement shock. Because I didn't know about it, which was Lily Tubbs from the University of Washington is transferring to Utah. Now,
Yeah,
I want to like I want to remind listeners that transfers are not always because they're not happy with what they had at their prior university. This is one of those examples. Cecilia Cooley from Denver is another one of those examples where the master's degree, this would be like a master's graduate student situation for Lily Tubbs and Cecilia. Um, but the master's program, you have to be able to get into the master's program in order to be in school, in order to then continue to compete. And so for Lily, her time at Washington was up. She was applying to grad programs. I'm not sure if they just didn't have her grad program. I'm not sure if there was a roster cap situation, but there was not a spot for Lily at Washington, in which case she entered the transfer portal and now she's going to be a Ute over in Utah. So obviously, she was in the Big Ten, and now she's over in the Big 12. Um, Utah just got a good one in Lily Tubbs because she can be steady Eddie and has some really high scoring potential on many events. I do remember going into regionals. Washington was in the play-in day at regionals, and she was going to be an individual competitor at regionals, whether they moved on or not. And that means that
right.
she had a great NQS throughout the season. So, what are your thoughts on Lily Tubbs to Utah?
I'm excited for her. She's one of those athletes who is a very technically correct athlete. She was trained really well with her basics. And so there isn't a lot of built-in deductions with her. And that is a formula for a very successful collegiate gymnast. So I'm excited to see her go to a different place with a different environment and a different conference with a different staff and just see how she experiences all of that. So I'm excited for her. I'm going to miss her in the Big Ten because I thoroughly enjoyed calling her routines and seeing her at competitions. But as someone who graduated, if you have the opportunity to get potentially a partial or a full scholarship, or even just the opportunity to continue competing to get the master's degree you want, I mean, you should do it. If that's something that you would like to do and your body can handle, you should do
Yeah.
it because that's invaluable opportunity.
Well, and I don't know if people listening know that this is starting to come down the pipeline, but there is this conversation right now that the NCAA potentially is going to be approving a 5 years of eligibility competed in 5 years.
Right.
Um, and there's a lot of nuances of above and beyond that. But what that means is that we don't need to rely on a pandemic or getting hurt in order to have 5 years of eligibility for an athlete. It would mean that every athlete would get 5 years to compete. Now, this
You mean
begs
we
the
don't need to tear our Achilles or have Hantana?
No, no, no.
Okay, cool. Just
Or be
confirming.
trapped, yeah, or be trapped in a Nebraska clinic to be quarantined for a while off of a cruise ship. Anyways, digress. Um no, and I think, we could spend an entire episode talking about 5 and 5. But and maybe we will, but I think this is coming off of the heels of you suggesting that like it's such a great opportunity for athletes like Lily if they have it in them to like go and compete more gymnastics and there's an opportunity to do so, go get it, girl. Go get it.
100%.
Another transfer that happened before last week, but of note, is Jordan Leiden from the University of Minnesota transferring to LSU. Now, I think we have seen Jordan rising for sure into some really great, steady positions for the Minnesota Golden Gophers. She was an anchor spot on on three events, I believe, this season. And had some really great scores. Um, and she has one more year of eligibility left, to my understanding. And so she entered the transfer portal, and we saw that she went to Oklahoma on an official visit at first. She went to LSU on an official visit and ultimately announced that she's going to be a Tiger. So, um, I think it's interesting. I think at both Oklahoma and at LSU, I think there's a going to be a massive fight for lineup positions for a transfer athlete like Jordan.
Yeah.
Now I say that in the same breath that I'll say when Maddie Ulrich transferred from Denver over to LSU, I would have never imagined that she would have been in as many lineups as she was in for LSU this past season. But there she was, and she did it, and she crushed it. So, I think if you work hard and you make your case, and it makes that case undeniable, I think Jordan Leiden could be competing a lot in the purple and gold.
100%.
I think it's cool. Okay, and then the big headlines, I'm gonna couple them together because we
Oh,
think that
yeah.
they might be a pairing, but we're unsure. The big headlines is Jocelyn Robertson posted this morning that she is on an official visit to UCLA today, despite much of the gymternet thinking that just mere minutes after the University of Georgia had announced that the brand new associate head coach is Laurent. Hello. Um, Everyone thought that she was going on her official visit to Georgia, and instead she made way and is on the ground in Los Angeles visiting the Bruins. So, first up, Jocelyn to UCLA. Can you see it?
The Olympics is in LA. There would be a lot of opportunity to be in that space and be in that market. She knows a lot of people on that team.
Hmm.
I could
Hmm.
see it. I
Hmm.
absolutely could. Now, could I see Georgia a little bit more just given the circumstances? Yes. But
Hmm.
I do think it's going to be very interesting to see if she wants to stay in the SEC, if she bumps to the Big Ten, what she wants to do. And I commend her for doing her research and looking and going different places. But once the Laurent news came out, I immediately thought, well, any WCC gymnast is going to go
Hmm.
to Georgia. But I guess we'll see. I don't know. It's interesting.
I know. I could also see Jocelyn at UCLA. I do. I think for all of the reasons you listed, I think that she like can get a crowd engaged, and I think that like the LA crowd would love to be engaged. Um,
Yeah,
I think that's really cool. I do think that the case for the WCC round two in Athens is more likely, for sure. So that's where I think the energy is going. But ultimately, it doesn't matter what we think. If she gets to go wherever she wants to go and has the greatest offer and has the greatest, opportunities for her to feel whatever she's trying to feel, which is great.
absolutely.
Um, but okay, let's finish with this Laurent news because I think we all sort of speculated it for sure. With the departure of Ryan Roberts to the University of Auburn, then you saw this like assistant coaches getting hired. Cecile brought Megan over from Denver, who Cecile used to coach with at Woga. Um, then you had Brenna Brooks come from the University of Iowa, who, for those of you who don't remember, Brenna Brooks was at the University of Iowa underneath Jen Llewellyn, who was her college coach because Brenna competed at the University of Washington. But even further back, Brenna Brooks was an athlete at Woga, where Cecile and Brenna have worked together and Megan have worked together. So ultimately, what we're seeing now with the addition of Laurent into that associate head coach position is we have this squad of former Woga coaches, despite us calling it WCC round two, uh,
Right.
can be quite confusing for those who are new to the gymnastics landscape. But here's what I want to finish with, Olivia. This is pop culture. This is gymnastics. This is what's it going to be in the road to the LA 2028 Olympics. They saw this tweet yesterday that said, now that Cecile and Laurent are back together and they're coaching, and there's a potential that we will see Jocelyn at Georgia, potentially. Um, there is a potential that most recently, Simone Biles have said that she is in a 50-50 maybe come back sort of situation. And now that her coaches are back coaching together, when for those of you who don't have context, Laurent was in, I believe, Martinique coaching Melanie De Jesus dos Santos, who at one point in time, Melanie De Jesus dos Santos was training with Laurent and Cecile in Houston and at WCC. Here's my prediction. If they get Jocelyn, Jocelyn is a current US national team member, which would make Athens, Georgia, and that gym technically a US national training site because anytime you have a US national team member, that gym that they train in becomes a US national training site. I believe that there are some strings that could be pulled to be able to train any elite that they want there because that it's a US national training site and it's not necessarily just a college gym. I could be
Interesting.
so wrong on this, but my big speculation is that there's a potential that we see Jocelyn there. There's a potential we see Simone training there. And there's a potential that we see Melanie De Jesus dos Santos come over from Martinique and train in Athens with Cecile and Laurent. At the same time, they're training the current Georgia Bulldogs.
All I'm going to say is I could see it happening, and I can't wait to see how it unfolds.
Right. Our job is to speculate, right? And I'm not trying to like throw shade in any direction whatsoever, but
Right.
I'm just like speculate or also thought of it as like dream situation. I would love to see Simone come back. I would love to see Melanie De Jesus dos Santos have a moment where she can go and redeem herself from Paris 2024. I would love to see like that squad back together because I remember the 2024 Olympic trials and the energy and the vibe that we were getting from those WCC girls was unmatched and so good. So I don't know. It's fun. I think it's so cool and I would love to see it. I'd love to see it. Okay, well, that's all I have for this episode.
Another one in the books.
Yeah. So I have a question for you, Olivia, though, to finish up. While you're in New York City, can you either give us a Carrie Bradshaw style TikTok or a Devil Wears Prada TikTok?
See both.
Great. Maybe it's the TikTok sound of Miranda going, Emily, that's all. And it's you in Tom's, that's her brother's nickname, um, at the art gallery.
Oh, yeah, I could see it. Okay, I got it.
He's challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted.
I love it. Okay, guys. Well, that was a nice, fun, short, quick episode. Hope you guys feel informed of some of the news and notes of this week. A big favor we have of you, start to comment a bit more about some things you want to hear about because one thing that we learned from this past year is you guys love when we have guests on, and we would love to start having some guests on the podcast show to start to hear some things. So send us names of guests that you would love to hear from. Send us some topics that you want us to expand a little bit more on or do some deep dive research on. And we'll do our best. And we'll be here weekly just to like gab and hang and I hope you enjoyed your walk on the treadmill, your walk of the dog, your drive time commute to work. We're here, we're hanging, and it's so fun to always be with you. So, on that note, Olivia, enjoy the city. Love you all, and goodbye.